Exposed. How a poor maid's amazing act of courage uncovered a billionaire's life-changing secret. Clara Johnson felt the world closing in around her. The laughter of children playing in the yards just a block away felt like an echo from another life, one she dreamt her daughter, Sophie, could enjoy without the weight of worry. As she scrubbed the floors of lavish homes, the scent of blooming dogwoods was a bittersweet reminder of the joys she could not afford. Time after time, she pushed through the pain, remembering her father, a war veteran who had taught her that strength lies in integrity, that struggling is part of the fight for something better. But with each month, hope dimmed while bills piled high. One Thursday afternoon, Clara's world tilted when she stepped into the mansion of David Hastings, a reclusive billionaire stuck in a gilded cage. His sprawling estate loomed behind towering hedges and guarded gates, a stark contrast to her cramped apartment. She expected wealth defined by gold and marble, but what she found was a man shadowed by his choices. David's eyes spoke volumes, revealing a depth of loneliness that cut through the mansion's opulence. During quiet moments while dusting the grand chandeliers, David shared stories of his philanthropy. He spoke passionately about helping families like Clara's, igniting a spark of hope that flickered dimly within her. Yet, every radiant moment was clouded by an unsettling secret. She began piecing together a secret that could shatter his carefully constructed facade. As whispers of economic inequality echoed through the neighborhood, Clara felt their sharp edges as they pricked at her heart. Tension brewed, bubbling up under the surface of community expectations. She stood uncomfortably between her growing bond with David and the harsh judgments that came with her social status. Would she dare to expose a truth that could devastate David's efforts and uproot her fragile existence? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each passing day deepened her internal struggle. She could feel the burden of her family's future weighing heavily on her shoulders. But as Clara's heart raced, something awakened within her, a fierce determination fueled by a love only a mother could understand. In a moment of clarity, she realized what was at stake, not just her daughter's future, but the countless families trapped in the same cycle. Would she choose to remain silent or stand up for what was right? The building tensions, whispers, and her own burning desire to bring about change formed a crucible of hope within her. Standing before David on a crisp morning, Clara finally spoke the words that had been haunting her. She knew the risk, felt the fear, yet was ready to confront the truth even if it meant shattering the delicate balance she struck. The moment hung like a tightrope above a chasm of uncertainty, where the courageous act of one maid could either transform lives or ignite a scandal that would threaten everything. Clara's voice wavered as she faced David. "I've been hearing things about your charity work and what you might be hiding." The words spilled out, raw and tinged with fear. For a fleeting moment, David's expression faltered, a slight crack in his otherwise stoic facade. She could see the man behind the billionaire vulnerable and uncertain. "What do you mean?" David asked, his tone a mix of defensiveness and curiosity. There was an intensity in his gaze that made Clara's stomach churn and her heart race. She could either plunge into the deep waters of revelation or retreat into the safety of silence. Clara swallowed hard, her throat dry and her chest tight. "I've heard talk in the community. Families struggling, while you stand as a symbol of hope." She paused, searching his eyes for understanding, for a flicker of remorse perhaps. "But how much are you really doing, David? Are you helping them, or is it just for show?" Silence hung between them like a fragile thread. His jaw tightened, and for a moment, Clara braced herself for anger. Instead, David exhaled slowly, his shoulders slumping as if the weight of the world pressed down on him. "What you're suggesting, it's not that simple." "Isn't it?" Clara pressed, feeling the flame of courage inside her. "There are families like mine who need every bit of help they can get. If you have a way to change their lives, why wouldn't you?" David's eyes clouded with thought, a storm brewing beneath the surface. "I do want to help." His voice softened, words laced with sincerity. But the explanation that followed was a flood of information. Clara listened, her heart pounding with each revelation. David had been manipulated by those around him, people he trusted, whose priorities didn't align with his vision for change. Profits from his charitable ventures had been siphoned away, feeding the very systems that oppressed those he yearned to help. Clara felt her emotions swirl in response. She had initially come thinking that David was the savior of families like hers, only to discover a man ensnared in a different kind of cage, one forged by betrayal and greed. Through his frustrations, she saw the fire within him, a flicker of hope that mirrored her own. Could they combine their strengths, spark a change together? Maybe we can fix this, Clara said, determination flooding her voice. The truth can be our ally. David looked at her, uncertainty dancing across his face. I can help you uncover what's really happening, but you must trust me. We need to expose the people who are taking advantage of your generosity. He raked a hand through his hair, an exasperated sigh escaping his lips. The weight of their new shared mission hung heavily between them. If we go forward with this, he warned, we'll face fierce backlash. The media will come for us. Your life will be under a microscope. Clara squared her shoulders. I've faced fear my entire life. If we have a chance to help families like mine, we can't let that stop us. David's gaze softened, a glimpse of admiration sparking in his eyes. He nodded, as if the very act of confirmation ignited a shift in both their lives. All right, he breathed. Let us do this. As they plotted their strategy, Clara felt a rush of adrenaline. This was more than she had ever hoped for, a chance to fight back. But deep down, she felt the encroaching shadows of doubt. What if they didn't succeed? That question loomed as they left the mansion together, facing a world filled with uncertainty. As Clara stepped into the sunlight, she took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the scent of possibility. Their choices could either uplift them or lead them into a storm. Clara could taste the fear of the unknown, but more than that, she could taste courage. Would their combined strength be enough to unveil the truth and ignite real change, or would they be crushed under the weight of their discovery? With a heart pounding in a mix of hope and anxiety, Clara braced herself for a battle ahead. How far would she have to go to protect the life she dreamed of for Sophie? That question echoed in her mind, looming just beyond their first step into the new chapter they were about to write. Clara and David walked down the sprawling driveway, the mansion looming behind them like a fortress. The air felt thick with tension, as if they were stepping into a battlefield. David kept glancing around, a protective stance radiating from him, while Clara felt a mix of exhilaration and dread. They had a plan, but now was when the real challenge began. I can start by reaching out to some contacts, David said, breaking the silence as they neared his sleek black car. We need those in the inner circle to help us reveal the truth. Clara nodded, but her mind raced with the enormity of their task. What if they're not willing to speak up? People can be scared of losing their jobs or facing backlash. David's jaw tightened, determination etched on his face. That's exactly why we need a solid strategy. We have to show them what's at stake. As they drove through the vibrant streets of their town, Clara's heart ached at the sight of families struggling. She remembered Sophie's laughter, the innocence embodied in her daughter's spirit, and it fueled her resolve. We're not just fighting for the truth, Clara stated, looking at David earnestly. We're fighting for every child who deserves a better chance. David's eyes flickered with awe, and Clara realized how much she wanted to believe in him. They were allies now, not just in a shared mission, but in a personal quest for redemption. You're right, David said, glancing her way. I've been so wrapped up in my own failure that I lost sight of why I started this journey in the first place. With each passing moment, Clara felt the weight of her own vulnerability. And it's easy to lose that focus, she admitted, her voice almost a whisper. Especially when the stakes are so high. They parked outside a small cafe that had seen better days. Inside, the hum of conversation surrounded them, a stark contrast to the gravity of their mission. Clara sipped her coffee, the warmth providing a momentary comfort. So, who do we approach first? David rifled through his phone, glancing over contacts that had once seemed untouchable. There's Melanie, the head of my charity's outreach program. She has insight into the operations. If anyone has details, it's her. And what if she's part of the problem? Clara's voice tinged with an edge of apprehension. David sighed heavily. I've considered that, but we can't assume everyone is compromised. We need to trust someone, or we can't move forward. Clara watched him absorb the possibility, resilience mingling with fear in his expression. Trust, it's a fragile thing. As they prepared to meet Melanie, Clara's mind swirled with the implications. This could lead to revealing corruption, but what if it also meant uncovering secrets even deeper than they had imagined? The door swung open, and Melanie walked in, radiating confidence. She approached their table, her smile broad yet glinting with suspicion. David. Clara. What a surprise. Clara felt her heart jump as their eyes met, but she steeled herself. Thanks for meeting us, she said, her tone firm yet friendly. David leaned forward, urgency in his voice. We need to talk about some serious matters concerning the charity. Things aren't what they seem. Melanie's expression shifted, a cautious line forming across her forehead. What kind of matters? Clara felt the moment freeze, the tension palpable. They were standing at the edge of a cliff, ready to leap into the unknown. Things that could change everything, David said, locking eyes with Clara. We need your help. The cafe buzzed around them, but all Clara could focus on was the weight of their words. What would unfold in this moment? Would they shatter the facade or plunge deeper into darkness? As Melanie's eyes narrowed with curiosity, Clara couldn't shake her unease. Could they trust her? With that question lingering, Clara braced for the storm to come, knowing this was just the beginning. The truth was waiting to be uncovered, but at what cost? Melanie took a seat, her smile faltering as David leaned closer. Clara could feel the energy shift, a crackle of apprehension mixed with anticipation filling the air between them. What exactly do you mean, David? Melanie pressed, her voice steady but her eyes darting between the two of them. If something's going on, please just lay it out. David hesitated, the words dancing on the tip of his tongue. I've been investigating some discrepancies in the charity's finances. And I think it goes deeper than just some bad accounting. Clara's stomach knotted. She could sense the emotions swirling around them, fear, urgency, the need for truth. We believe children's lives are at stake, she added, hoping to convey the seriousness of their claims. If there's something wrong, we need to fix it. Melanie's expression darkened, and Clara held her breath, preparing for a possible retreat. Instead, she leaned back and crossed her arms. Okay, so you're suggesting that there's fraud happening right under our noses? That's a serious allegation. Do you have proof? Not yet, David admitted, his voice edged with frustration. But I know there's something off. I've heard rumors from other staff, people scared to speak up. What kind of rumors? Can you be specific? Melanie probed, her skepticism piercing through the fog of tension. Clara exchanged a glance with David. People are saying funds meant for outreach programs are being misallocated, possibly funneled elsewhere. It affects the children we're trying to serve. We need to gather more information, and we thought you might be able to help us if you're not involved. Melanie's gaze dropped to the table, her fingers tapping nervously. Clara watched her process the gravity of their claims. Moments stretched like the silence after thunder, a pause before the storm. Look, Melanie finally said, lifting her gaze with a fierce intensity. If you're right, then this is a bigger issue than you know. You might be putting yourself at risk. Who are you planning to involve? Just you for now, David said. We trust you, but we can't proceed without someone who understands the ins and outs of this charity. Melanie's tough demeanor softened slightly, her eyes revealing the woman behind the mask. You're trusting me based on what? A shared mission? Sometimes, that's all we need, Clara replied softly, her heart racing with vulnerability. But we fully understand that trust can break. With a tense breath, Melanie glanced out the cafe window. Clara could almost see her mind churning, weighing the consequences of their discussion. If I help you, this won't be a simple matter of gathering information. We will need to be strategic and careful. There are people in this organization who won't like what you're proposing. Let them come, David said fiercely. We're prepared for anything. For a moment, Melanie searched their faces, looking for truth in the depths of their resolve. Okay, she finally said. I'll help you. But we need to meet after hours and away from here. I have my own contacts who might have insight. Relief washed over Clara, then gave way to the uneasiness that settled back in her stomach. Thank you, Melanie. We need to move fast. Lives depend on it. As they left the cafe, Clara felt the weight of the world on her shoulders again. Each step carried the risk of discovery. The closer they got to the truth, the more danger they faced. What would happen if they stumbled upon something they weren't prepared to handle? That night, as they sat together, planning their next move, Clara noticed a message flash on David's phone, a request for a meeting from someone she didn't recognize. Her gut twisted. Who could it be, and what did they want? And just like that, their path had widened, revealing shadows lurking in unexpected places. Open it, David said, his eyes locking onto hers. We need to see if this can lead us somewhere or if we're stepping into yet another trap. As Clara's finger hovered over the screen, she felt the electric thrill of possibility and danger merge. What awaited them on the other side of that message? Clara's heart raced as she pressed the message open. The screen lit up with a name that felt like a thunderclap in the quiet of the room, Alexandra Reed. The sudden swirl of emotions left her breathless. Alex was the head of the charity, the face behind the organization that promised so much to the community. Why would she be reaching out to David? Who is she? Melanie asked, leaning closer. Head of the charity, Clara whispered. But she's also been a part of a lot of these rumors. Maybe she knows more than we think. David's brow furrowed. That could work in our favor, but it could also blow up in our faces if she's not who we think she is. What does the message say? Clara's eyes darted over the text. She wants to meet tomorrow at a location I've never seen. It says it's important and that we shouldn't tell anyone. The last part sent a chill down her spine. Why the secrecy? David rubbed his chin thoughtfully. What do we do? If we go, we could gather information we desperately need, but we could also walk right into a trap. Or, Melanie interjected, we could send someone else. Someone who fits in better or won't raise suspicions. David raised an eyebrow. Like who? This needs to be handled delicately. We can't afford to screw this up. Clara bit her lip, the tension humming in her chest. What if we go and play along? Get what we can out of her and figure out if she's on our side. We have to know if she's part of the problem or the solution. Melanie exchanged glances with David, weighing the possibility. It's risky. Very risky. Clara met Melanie's gaze, something sturdy forming in her chest. So is doing nothing. We need answers. As the night crept deeper, they mapped out a plan, every word feeling weighty but necessary. The atmosphere was a cocktail of hope and fear, the air thick with their shared determination. Clara had never felt so alive, yet so terrified all at once. Each detail about how to handle the meeting was discussed, from who should talk to how they would dress. Every scenario played out like a scene in a movie, but she knew this was real life. The following day came too fast, as if time itself was mocking her anxiety. Clara stood in front of her closet, pulling clothes over her head absent-mindedly. Nothing seemed right. How do you dress for a potential showdown with someone who held secrets that could change everything? David called from the other room, breaking her reverie. It's time, Clara. We should go. Heart pounding, she took a steadying breath. When she joined David and Melanie, the air crackled with anticipation. They shared one last glance, the unspoken camaraderie binding them as they stepped outside. Just remember, David said quietly as they walked toward the meeting spot, no matter what she says, trust your instinct. Clara nodded, anxiety thrumming within her, but alongside it was a fierce resolve. She could feel the gravity of their mission pulling them forward. As they approached the address Alex had mentioned, a sense of dread pooled in Clara's stomach. The building loomed above them, dark and imposing. What if we're making a huge mistake? Melanie whispered, her face pale. Then we'll handle it, together, David assured her. We're not alone in this. Clara took a deep breath as they neared the entrance, the door waiting like a gate into the unknown. Then the sudden ding of her phone interrupted the moment a notification flashed on her screen, and her heart stopped. It read, "Cancel the meeting. You have no idea who you're dealing with." The implications were immediate and chilling. Who had sent the message, and why? Clara felt the weight of impending danger push against her chest. What's wrong? Melanie asked, her concern evident. Clara swallowed hard, staring at the screen. We may not be the only ones digging into this. Someone knows we're coming. With every second that ticked away, the feeling of danger intensified. They were on the brink of uncovering something huge, but at what cost? How did they fight someone lurking in the shadows, intent on stopping them before they could get any closer? Clara's mind raced as she processed the implications of the message. Who had reached out to warn them, and what could they be hiding? A knot of anxiety tightened in her stomach. She glanced at David and Melanie, their expressions mirroring her own fear. Do we still go in? David asked, his voice steady, but Clara could hear the doubt lurking beneath the surface. Clara inhaled sharply. We didn't come this far to turn back now. We need to know what's really going on. Her words trembled slightly, but she refused to let fear guide her. Besides, turning back now feels like admitting defeat. Melanie glanced at the door, then back at Clara. It felt heavy, like an anchor, pulling them away from their goal. Okay, but let us be smart about this. We stick together, and if things go south, we leave. Clara nodded, though her heart pounded louder with every step. The entrance loomed before them, dark and unwelcoming. Just as Clara reached for the handle, another notification popped up on her phone, almost as if fate was holding her back. She hesitated, glancing at the screen again. Clara? David questioned, his eyes narrowing in concern. What is it? It's from an unknown number, Clara said softly, her pulse quickening. It says. She can't be trusted. Melanie's breath hitched. This is getting sketchy. What if it's a trap? Clara's frustration burst forth. What if it's not? What if she has information we need to clear everything up? The resolve in her voice surprised even her. David placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her. Listen. We can walk away right now. No one would blame us. But Clara's determination flared anew. I need to know, David. I can't walk away from this. With that, she pushed open the door, the creaking hinges a terrible herald of secrets waiting within. The interior was dimly lit, a stark contrast to the brooding exterior. Clara took a moment to adjust, scanning the room. A long table filled with empty chairs sat in the center, and against the far wall, a figure stood, silhouetted against the faint light streaming in through a dusty window. It was her Alexandra Reed. Thank you for coming, Alex said, her voice smooth yet layered with urgency. Clara took a defensive step forward. We almost didn't. Why the secrecy? Alex's lips curled into a knowing smile. You're smarter than most. She gestured for them to sit. But time is short, and we're in danger if we don't work together. Danger? Melanie echoed, her eyes darting from Alex to the door as if expecting trouble to kick it down. Alex leaned closer, her demeanor shifting into something more serious, more commanding. There are forces at work here that go far deeper than you can imagine. If you truly want to expose the truth, you need to trust me. Clara felt a swirl of emotions: curiosity, fear, and hope. Trust is earned, not given, she countered, the words spilling from her as a statement of her boundaries. Then let us start now, Alex replied, pulling out documents from a sleek briefcase. The papers scattered across the table, revealing information that made Clara's heart race: a web of lies, cover-ups, and connections that reached into the heart of the community they tried to protect. As she pored over the documents, the stakes crystallized before her. Would Alex be their ally or another hurdle in the fight for truth? Clara's instinct screamed for caution. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway outside, sending a fresh wave of fear through the trio. Clara exchanged a look with Melanie and David. We need to decide right now. Do we trust her? David whispered urgently. The footsteps grew louder, an ominous reminder that the clock was ticking. Clara took a deep breath, her heart racing, aware that the wrong choice could seal their fate. But what she didn't expect was the truth lurking just beyond the door, ready to drown them all in consequences. Would they face whatever awaited them, or would fear dictate their next move? Clara's heart pounded as the footsteps approached, signaling an uninvited urgency. The inner turmoil was palpable. Trust was a fragile thing in this moment. She looked at Alex, her eyes searching for any hint of reassurance, but found only a steely resolve reflected back. Clara. David whispered again, his voice laced with tension. What do we do? Before she could answer, the door swung open with a force that startled them all. A stern-looking man in a dark suit stepped inside, his face set like stone. Behind him, 2 more men flanked the doorway, their eyes scanning the room with a predator's focus. Clara's breath caught in her throat. Alexandra Reed, the man said, his tone clipped. You're needed immediately. Panic surged. Clara felt the weight of the documents pressing into her palms. The mention of Alex's name stirred an unspoken alarm. What is going on? She demanded, standing her ground despite the fear gnawing at her. Alex raised her hand, her expression shifting to one of authority. Please, this is not what it looks like. I'm handling it. The man's gaze flickered to Clara and her friends. You 3 shouldn't be here. You're in the middle of something beyond your comprehension. His words were icy, a warning wrapped in disdain. Melanie exchanged a quick glance with Clara and took a step forward. We're not leaving without answers. Who are you? The man smirked. It wasn't a pleasant sight. You really believe you can just waltz in here and demand answers? You're playing a dangerous game. Dangerous for whom? Clara shot back, her fear morphing into defiance. We owe it to ourselves to know the truth. If something's wrong, we'll expose it. The man narrowed his eyes. Expose what? You don't even know the half of it. Clara clenched her fists, adrenaline pumping through her veins. This confrontation was spiraling, and she could feel the tension crackling in the air. They were already in too deep. She needed to take charge. Alex, who are these people? Clara pressed, breaking her gaze away from the man, desperate to pull Alex back into the conversation. Alex opened her mouth, but before she could answer, the man interrupted. If you don't leave now, the consequences will be severe. Stop. Melanie called out, her voice rising above their rising voices. We're not afraid of you. Just tell us what you're hiding. The man's expression hardened, and Clara felt the gravity of his words hang heavy in the air. You think your courage is noble, but it can lead to destruction. You have no allies here. Clara felt a chill creep along her spine. Could they truly trust Alex? The documents spread out before them felt like a lifeline, an anchor in a storm. But this man, it was clear he would do anything to keep his secrets hidden. Okay, here's the deal, Clara said, voice steadying as she slowly brought everyone's attention back to her. We're not backing down. If you want to intimidate us, you've picked the wrong people. There are others who will hear about this. Another loud thud echoed in the hallway. Clara's heart sank, fear flooding her system. What if they were truly trapped here, playing with forces they didn't understand? Do you want the truth? The man asked, his tone suddenly shifting to something almost intrigued. His challenge hung in the air like a dare. Yes, Clara said, almost too quickly. Yes, we do. But as the man stepped closer and opened his mouth, she could sense the walls closing in. Were they prepared to learn what lurked beneath the facade? As the shadows danced around them, and the footsteps faded into silence, an unsettling realization settled within her. Sometimes, knowing the truth meant risking everything. What awaited them was beyond anything they could expect. The air felt charged, like a looming storm. Clara could see it in Alex's eyes too, this uncertainty, the fear that they were standing at the edge of something far too big for them. The man's presence felt like thick smoke, choking any room for doubt. Clara could almost hear the gears whirring in her head as she wrestled with her instincts. Was she really ready to plunge into this unknown? "Speak," Alex finally said, her voice steady, strong, but still threaded with an irritation that hinted at the weight pressing down on her. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He took a step closer, and the atmosphere shifted again, more charged, more dangerous. "You want the truth, do you? Better be careful what you wish for." "Just get to it," David interrupted, his bravado a thin veneer over the anxiety in his voice. The man studied them for a moment, and for a fleeting second, Clara expected him to retreat, to abandon this tense standoff. Instead, he shifted his weight, and the air grew even heavier. "Fine," he started, his tone chillingly polite. "The truth is that your friend Alex has been part of something far more sinister than you can imagine. She holds secrets that could turn lives upside down. And it's not just about her." The words hit like a fist. Clara's heart raced, a cocktail of fear and disbelief surged through her. "Secrets? What kind of secrets?" she asked, urgency sharpening her voice. That he tilted his head, observing them as if they were small insects caught in a web. "There are powerful people who want things kept quiet. Those documents you found? They're more than just paperwork, they're pieces of a much larger puzzle. And if you're connected to them, you've just placed a target on your backs." What does that mean?" Melanie's voice faltered, a crack forming in her determined facade. "It means that you are stepping into a war one you can't win," he replied, his voice low and calm, belying the threat he was cloaked in. "And trust me, those who think they can take down giants end up crushed." Clara felt a rush of defiance rise within her. "You think we're afraid? This isn't about you or your threats. We're not backing down now. We need answers." He chuckled darkly, looking each one of them over. "Brave words. But bravery without knowledge is foolishness." Alex seemed to finally find her voice, cutting through the tension like a knife. "What do you know, and how do you know it? You're not just a messenger here." The man leaned forward, his expression unervingly serious. "I know more than you could imagine, Alexandra. You're in deep, and it's only a matter of time before you're swept away. You should let them go, keep them safe." Clara's breath caught again. The thought of losing her friends, a part of her resolve, cracked. She shot a glance at David, whose brow was furrowed in worry. Melanie stood firm but had a tremble to her shoulders that revealed her own fear. "Don't you dare," Clara started, every piece of her wanting to shout doubts away. "Enough." The man's voice sliced through the room. "If you want to know the truth, I can't promise you safety. But if you stay, if you dig deeper, you're already pulled in. You'll have to decide what you're willing to sacrifice." A sudden crash resonated from the hallway, echoing their panic. Clara's heart pounded harder, or was that her fear talking? Gripping the documents even tighter, there were too many threads to pull. "Then show us the truth," she demanded, feeling a tremor of courage welling up within her. "We want to know what lies ahead." But as he hesitated, Clara felt the weight of inevitability pushing down on her. What might they uncover? Would curiosity save them or lead them into a deadly spiral? The man's eyes hinted at something dark and knowing. "You're going to wish you hadn't asked," he whispered as the lights flickered ominously. The feeling of being watched prickled the back of Clara's neck, but the tension holding them captive was palpable. Would they turn back, or could they truly face whatever monsters lay hidden beyond the shadows? Uncertainty loomed, and Clara knew they were on the brink of a revelation that could alter everything, but what awaited them when the truth was finally revealed? Clara's heartbeat echoed in her ears, drowning out the erratic creaks of the old building. She could feel the weight of the man's gaze as if he were peeling back the layers of her soul. Every instinct screamed to turn away, to retreat from this unknown precipice, but somewhere deep inside, a stubborn spark flickered. She had to know. "Show us what you know," Alex repeated, her voice now barely a whisper, a fragile thread holding them together against the looming storm of uncertainty. The man lifted his chin, a flicker of surprise crossing his otherwise impassive features, then shifted his stance, leaning casually against the wall. "There's a safe house," he said finally, his tone oddly calm, as if he were finally conceding to a compelling argument. "Somewhere secure. You'll need to see it for yourselves. Come, I'll take you." David exchanged glances with Clara and Alex, a silent debate raging in his eyes. "How do we know we can trust you?" he asked, breaking the tense silence. The man shrugged, his indifference unsettling. "You don't. But those documents will only bring you more trouble if you're caught. Believe me, it's not the kind of trouble you want to face." Clara's gut tightened. What kind of trouble could possibly be worse than what they were already tangled in? She couldn't shake the thought of powerful figures lurking in the shadows, their intentions veiled in secrecy. "Let us do it," Melanie finally said, her resolve ignited as if a flame had been sparked within her. "We need answers. Even if it puts us at risk, we can't go back now." "Wait, Melanie." Clara shot her a look of alarm. "What if it's a trap?" "Then we fight back," Alex interjected, her voice a battle cry. "Nothing, we've come this far. We can't let fear dictate our next move." The man straightened, his eyes glimmering with intrigue as he watched their exchange. "Then it's settled," he said, the slightest edge of amusement touching his lips. "Follow me." Reluctantly, the group lined up behind him, their presence lit by that flickering overhead light. As they stepped into the hallway, Clara couldn't ignore the tightening of her chest. The shadows seemed to stretch and reach for them, hungry and dark. The corridor echoed with each cautious step, their whispers mingling with the oppressive silence. Clara felt Alex beside her, a fragile ally drifting into unknown waters. David walked with wary eyes, while Melanie's shoulders squared as if she were preparing for a fight. "Do you really think you're ready for whatever comes next?" the man asked, glancing back over his shoulder. "You must grasp one critical truth: not all secrets are meant to be uncovered. Some are better left buried." The tone of his voice sent chills down Clara's spine. What would they find before the truth, and worse yet, what would they lose? They approached a door at the end of the hallway. The man paused, placing a hand on the cold metal. "This safe house it'll change everything," he said, slow and deliberate. "But it'll also force you to make choices about who you trust. Remember, trust is a rare currency in this world." With those words, he pushed the door open. A rush of stale air swept over them. Peering inside, Clara's breath hitched. This was no ordinary space. It felt alive, vibrating with potential, and yet shrouded in danger. As they stepped inside, a tension crackled in the air. A flicker of hope collided with an undercurrent of dread. Clara felt the weight of all their choices pressing down on her, pounding at her consciousness. What awaited them in this new realm? Would the secrets laid bare bear the sting of truth or the sharp edge of betrayal? And at that moment, as the door creaked ominously shut behind them, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that they were now standing on the edge of a precipice where everything could change or shatter violently. But would they be brave enough to leap? Inside the safe house, Clara's senses were jolted alive. The dim light revealed walls lined with posters and charts, creating an electrifying atmosphere that screamed of urgency. Faces stared back at her children who deserved a better life, names of families who had come to rely on the charity's heart. Clara inhaled sharply. This was their mission, their catalyst for change. "What are we looking at?" David asked, breaking the spell as he stepped forward, the tension in his shoulders easing into something akin to determination. "Evidence," the man replied. "Evidence of corruption at every level. People in power line their pockets while the very families they pledged to help suffer." Clara's heart raced as she stepped deeper into the room. It was a crossroads, each document a potential thread to unravel the lies. "We can expose this, we have to." Her voice rang with urgency. "Before you can do that," the man interrupted, his demeanor shifting to something sharper, more serious. You need to understand what collateral damage comes with it. Lives are at stake here, lots of them. But isn't that why we're here? Clara shot back, her jaw set with resolve. To protect those lives? A slight nod from Alex confirmed Clara's point. We've made it this far. We can't turn back now. It's time to take action. Clara felt fire through her veins. Yes, they could harness this energy. Together, they could ignite a movement. But the man's next words draped fear over her triumph. The more you press for truth, the more you put yourselves in danger. There are those who hesitate to protect their interests. Let them try, David declared with a growing conviction that sent shivers through Clara. She saw it in his eyes, a newfound courage that came from knowing they were united in this fight. As they sifted through papers and files, the pieces of their puzzle began to take shape. Hours passed, the air thick with determination and urgency. They huddled around a table covered in notes and evidence, the bond between them solidifying. "Look at this," Melanie exclaimed, pointing to a chart that highlighted financial discrepancies. "This shows that a significant amount of money has been misallocated over years. We can connect the dots." Clara smiled, her heart swelling with hope. This was their moment, they were becoming the change they craved. And then, in the midst of their excitement, a loud bang echoed through the house. The reverberation sent cold dread racing down Clara's spine. "What was that?" she whispered, voice trembling. "Stay quiet," the man warned, eyes darting toward the door. "They've found us." Adrenaline surged, and in a heartbeat, urgency eclipsed their hope. "We have to get out," David urged, moving towards the back exit. "Now." Clara's stomach twisted. They were so close. "No. We can't leave it behind." The fire within her blazed. They had a purpose: to help those families, to solidify their community, and to unveil the truth. This fight was theirs, and no one could take that from them. In that moment, her fear ignited a fierce resolve. "We fight," she declared. "We fight for every family, for every child who deserves more. If we don't stand now, we might never get another chance." Breathless, Clara felt the weight of her words pull everyone together. The man hesitated, understanding reflective in his gaze, but then he nodded. "You're right. If we're going to do this, we'll do it together." They steeled themselves, moving as one unit toward the door. David led the charge, motioning for Clara and Melanie to follow close. With determination in every step, they opened the door, ready to face whatever had come for them. As they stepped outside, Clara's heart raced with a blend of terror and hope. This was just the beginning. No matter the danger, their unity would be their shield. The night enveloped them in a blanket of stars. The danger looming ahead couldn't eclipse the spark ignited within her. They were more than just individuals now, they were a force to be reckoned with. Together, they would fight for truth, for change, and for a better future for Sophie and all the children like her. "Let us go," she said, her voice strong. They moved quickly and decisively, as shadows danced behind them, but fear was replaced with resolve. It was a world filled with uncertainty, but Clara was ready to face it head-on. They would expose the lies, unravel the truths, and emerge victorious. This was their moment, and they would not let it slip away. "Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to be part of this incredible journey and stay updated on every exclusive twist and turn. Leave a like right now to give your support and help us reach others who need to hear this story. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this exhilarating ending. Share instantly with at least 5 friends who also need to witness this transformation and be inspired. Don't wait, not even one more second. Your support means everything.